Hi, my name is Ximy. I'm the founder of the Bombshell Formula and author-producer of the 12-week online multimedia program, 7 Body Basics. I am super excited to have this really mysterious conversation about spells. And I know that this sounds like so airy-fairy just because I've chosen that medieval word, spells. But what we're really talking about is programming. If I am to bring that concept into a more logical, rational language, or use a more logical, rational term to describe what's going on. But the reason why I love the word spells is because if you look at what we do when we're writing a word, we are spelling. Words have the power to spellcast us, just like images do, smells, etc. So today we're going to be looking at what is the beauty spell. We're going to be looking at who are the spellcasters and how do they cast spells. We're going to learn about how I discovered the spells, and we're also going to be looking at a self-assessment that is going to allow you to figure out if you are under the spell and how deep you are in the spell. And most importantly, we're going to explore a step-by-step process to starting you on the journey to breaking spells. So this is life-changing information, and I feel honored that you have invited me to share this with you. All right, so the first thing, as I said, that we're going to explore is what is a beauty spell. But before we get into the beauty spell, let us expand a little bit on what we were talking about as to what a spell is. So it's a program, it's programming, okay? So when we're children, we're highly programmable, right? And even as adults, we still are. But when we're children, we're even more suggestible, okay? And so there are two ways in which you can parent an individual that can either teach them how to create an internal relationship with power, or it's also a process, some people go through another process where they actually learn to develop an external relationship with power. So let me expand a little bit upon that. So when you have an internal relationship with power, it's because you've been through a process of self-exploration. You have connected with who you are, who you want to be, and you've also been given the freedom to see the world through your eyes. You've also learned how to parent yourself and how to connect with consequence of choice, make choices, and all of this allows you to transition from a child into an empowered adult. You manage your life from a place of knowing self and from a place of inner authority. So because you know self, you understand your limits and boundaries, you don't need to steal power from other people in order for you to own the illusion of control or own the illusion of power, all right? You live centered in your power if you were given the opportunity to be parented this way and self-explore. All right, so, and by the way, this is like a big summary. This is a more in-depth topic, but I just want to give you this introduction just to create context. All right, so a painful parenting model, in my experience, is when we are taught to, instead of rely on ourselves, trust our inner guidance, to trust the people outside of ourselves at the expense of learning to trust our inner guidance. And so when we trust our inner guidance, I refer to that as being instinct healthy. We can smell the predator. But when we are taught to externalize authority, to externalize power, and to have other people validate reality for us, then what happens is that we become what I refer to as instinct injured. We lose our ability to smell the predator, meaning we can't recognize if something is really harming us or doing us good because we're so seduced by the idea that they are right and that they want to protect us, that we totally dismiss any attempt that our inner guides give us to warn us about what this situation or what these people are really about. So when we learn to externalize power instead of internalizing power, because we don't know how to draw power from within, what we do is we try to steal it from other people by either giving ourselves away to them so that they manage our power for us, or by becoming the authority figure and taking power from other people and telling them what to do. So you could see it as the authority and the authority seeker. And the truth is that if you learn how to externalize power, chances are that you alternate between the two. It's like a predator-prey game. So you externalize power by becoming the prey, and that is when you surrender yourself so that somebody else manages your power, but you also externalize your power by becoming the predator, and that is you taking power away from that person. So that's why I say that we have an exchange, predator-prey. All right, with that understanding, if we were taught to externalize the world, well, that created a very fertile ground for us to be spell casted and programmed. All right, so this brings me to the beauty spell, okay? So because we were not taught to develop our own self-concept, meaning we weren't taught to look at ourselves and go, oh my God, what an amazing body this is. Wow, it's so magical, I can do this, I can do that. And instead, we built our self-concept around, you look fat, you look short, you look like your pores are showing, whatever story they told us when we were children. We totally became spellcasted through the pain and through the trauma and the shame we owned through that experience. And so what happened is that we built our entire self-concept around the projections that other people made to us, okay? So whatever pain they had about their own body image, they projected onto us, and then we owned that. And we built our entire reality around that. So this is one of the ways in which we got spellcasted by family members, by our friends in school, when we got bullied, but most importantly, through media, those spells were enforced and reinforced. And so what happened was that as we started to expose ourselves and go from being parented by our family members and became parented, or were also parented by the school system, by media, religion, government, etc. And now we also brought all of those perceptions into us, and that also continued the process of us building our self-concept. Okay, so basically, we did not build that self-concept based on a process of self-exploration and knowing who we were. We just basically accepted what everybody else told us we were, or who we needed to become in order to feel worthy, in order to feel enough, and in order to feel like we belong. And let me just say something about that. The biggest priority for a human being is to feel like it belongs to the tribe. Well, why is this? Well, from a developmental perspective, when we used to live in tribes in the wilderness, if you were kicked out of the tribe, that meant you did not survive. Okay, so although that reality has kind of shifted, and now we're in modern times and things are somewhat different, when we are children, that reality holds. If our family ostracizes us, then we feel like we cannot survive. So belonging to a tribe, be it our family, being a social club, being a gang, doesn't matter. Belonging somewhere is one of the fundamental priorities of the human being. And the reason why I'm sharing this is because we will oftentimes make belonging a priority over even our own health. okay? And this is gonna tie into our conversation a little later. All right, so continuing on the topic of media. So this is one of the main spellcasters. And so, you know, when you look at television or a magazine, basically what they do is they promote ideas that they want to replicate. So that's a meme. It's an idea that wants to replicate itself, okay? And this is a spell, pretty much. So we were presented with a series of ideas, a series of memes, and we constructed our reality or validated our reality around that. And we created what is referred to as social norms, meaning, oh, this is what's normal in society. Okay, so, oh, looking this way, that's what's normal, that's what's desirable. Behaving this way, that's what's normal, that's what's desirable. And so we became indoctrinated. And so through this evolution of different ideals that women needed to pursue in order to feel worthy or enough or accepted in that tribe, oh my God, we've seen like so many variations. And so what I am noticing is that each year, each one of those variations gets more and more and more extreme. And now with social media, what we're seeing is that the more extreme the body goes, the more followers that person has. So the more validation, the more approval that particular individual has. So what we're seeing is that what people are doing is that they are now chasing these fairy tale body ideals that are fabricated, meaning they are not natural. For the most part, you have to engage in some very extreme practices to meet these extreme ideals. But they present them to us like they are normal, when they actually don't. And this is part of the spell. So it's a whole process and a whole sequence of events that primes our perception to accept these things as realities, and we attach to them. And this is another key part of it. We become extremely attached. We believe that this is what's true and that this is the perception of the world and how things are, and we defend it, even though these things are harming us. And this is one of the key indicators that we are under a spell, is when we defend and we protect them, and especially when we feel threatened by anybody who even questions that spell. All right, so continuing with the media, you know, while we thought we were being entertained, we were actually just being programmed. And to the degree that we continued that programming process, and that we were put under these spells, we started turning against ourselves and dismissing our inner guidance even more. And eventually, you know, it was this reality that took over us. Okay, and so this is very important, because when we externalize reality, and when we're told that when we achieve this or when we achieve that, then that's when we will be enough, what we do is we turn against ourselves, because we don't see that being enough from coming from ourselves, from within, but we actually see that something external to us is going to provide us with that feeling of worthiness, of peace, of I belong, okay, and I am enough, when actually the contrary is true. And so what we do is we start chasing this. We forget that power lives within. And so we start, because we are disempowered, we don't know how to give ourselves power. What we do is we feel very out of control, and we own the illusion of control by pursuing power outside of ourselves. And this is the perfect process to groom us into becoming the perfect consumers, okay? Because, you know, if power lives outside of us, we are going to be buying into different things that we believe are going to give us that thing that we're looking for. And so this is what creates consumerism. Okay, it's we're looking for something, but you know that when you buy that thing, you know, it gave you like a high for a little while, and then you went back to feeling how you normally felt. So it doesn't really change anything. And this is the reason why a lot of the people that pursue power outside of them, once they have that illusion of power and that illusion of control, they feel very depressed and very disillusioned, because that promised land, that happily ever after that they were promised they would get to if they achieved all these things, never came. They feel just as empty as they want. They just have a whole bunch of toys to show for their efforts. So this is really important, because this instinct injury that I was referring to, this inability to trust our instinct, our inner guidance, our intuition, leaves us open to the predator, and we trust the predator more than we trust ourselves, and this is a problem. And the spellcasters know this. They bank on this. They understand that you are easy prey. Okay, so this is one of the main points that I want to get across. And so what they use to cast these spells is they attach whatever product, whatever meme, whatever idea they want to sell to you through emotion. And typically that emotion is belonging. Okay, so status, prestige, power, any of these things will glamour, any of these things will typically be attached to whatever idea they want to sell to you. And so here we have, you know, entire industries that revolve around making women or seducing women into making choices that work against their body. And what they do is they attach glamour to it. Let me give you an example. Surgeries. So it's glamorous to get a surgical procedure. It's considered an act of affluence and prestige. This is how they do it. Or a particular cream or a particular perfume. Prestige and class and glamour are attached to each one of these products to convince that little girl, that wounded little girl who has an instinct injury, that if she has that product, she will be powerful. Okay? And we all know that is not true, but because we process this information as naive children, we actually buy into it. Okay? And then what we do is that we accept, as I said, procedures that work against our body, that poison us, that mutilate us, and that just really destroy our bodies in the long run. And we embrace them because we believe that that will get us to that promised land of that happily ever after, or that empowerment that we're actually looking for. All right, so how did I figure this out? How did I realize that we're all getting spell casted, including myself? Well, this takes me back many, many years ago to an experience I had with some indigenous cultures. And so I'm from Colombia, South America, and I was filming a documentary many years ago. And I was interviewing some indigenous tribes who had not really had access to civilization. And so we were interviewing them about some political issues. And in the meantime, like in the middle of the break, while the cameraman was getting some shots ready, I asked him, and I don't even know why I asked him this question, but it was like divine intervention because it just helped me realize how spellcasted I was. So I asked this man, so what's your ideal of beauty? And then he starts giving me a list of characteristics like that a woman is loving, that she is connected with me, that she's a good mother, that she's a good member of society. And obviously this person was speaking the Kogi language, that's the name of the tribe, and I'm speaking Spanish. So I thought, okay, well, maybe it's a language barrier. Let me rephrase the question. So I went ahead and rephrased the question, and he kept giving me the same answer. And I kept thinking, he doesn't understand me. But you know what I realized after a while of going through this process with him? What I realized is that the one who didn't understand was me. Why? Because for the first time in my life, I was speaking to an individual who had never been exposed to media or any of these social constructs that we have been exposed to. First time in my life I had ever spoken to somebody like that, and it just hit me. And it felt like a fish in water. Like the fish lives in water, so it's not aware that it lives in water because it's just in there all the time, and that's its world and that's its environment. And suddenly that fish gets taken out of water onto land. And it realizes, oh my God, there is something else, and I live in water. That was kind of like how I realized it, and I was like, oh my God, I am spellcasted. And anyway, so around that time, and so this was the first and most important part of this experience, because it's very difficult, when you're under a spell, and here's the catch, to realize that you are under a spell. Unless you have one of these enlightening situations that just wakes you up. And funny enough, around that time, I was working in the field of entertainment. So this brings me into a little bit about my background and how I started figuring out all these spells. So I have a background in mass communications. I've worked as a news writer for a newscast, obviously. And I've also worked as a fitness TV bombshell, and I was sharing health and fitness advice on television, Hispanic television, for many years. And also I've written columns for magazines. I've been a columnist for magazines. I've authored books. And this is the side of my career that took me into the world of entertainment and media. Okay, and through that, I was also exposed to many celebrities and just the entire behind the scenes of that world. Simultaneously, as I mentioned, I was a fitness and health professional that was combining my two careers, mass communications with health. Okay, and so I'm a holistic health coach with 20 years of experience. And I worked for 10 years in the media, and the two of them overlapped. So by the time that I started working in the media, I already had, as a TV host, I already had my background in health. So this gave me a very grounding energy and a solid understanding about many different things that protected me from falling deep into the fitness beauty spell. And a lot of the people that are in that world did not have that background. So they were easily seduced into a lot of the things that I'm going to explain in a few minutes. So as I'm working in the world of entertainment, I'm working with clients who are having all kinds of aesthetic challenges. And what started to happen was they would send me these clients to help them, with aesthetic gains. And as we started implementing these protocols that instead of working against the body, work with the body, people started not only seeing aesthetic gains, but they also started realizing that some of their health conditions went into remission. So then they started referring more and more and more of these people, which was beautiful for me because it allowed me to understand that health comes from within, obviously, and it's the expression of you nurturing your body, and that the way you look is a side effect of that. When we don't nurture ourselves and our health is compromised and our aesthetic or our external appearance starts to suffer as a result, and we start getting symptoms like weight gain, or we start losing hair, or our teeth start to have problems, etc., etc., and then we try to patch those symptoms externally, basically we're totally missing the messages that the body is trying to give us through our physical appearance, which is your health is compromised. The solution is not to play patch the symptom game and start covering up all of these symptoms. The idea is to get to the root of the challenge, listen to the body, understand what the body is telling you through these symptoms, and take action. Okay, so while I was working in entertainment, I was developing this understanding, and I was helping my clients address not only their aesthetic but also health related challenges when other professionals had already given up on them. So I had the privilege of working with some pretty extreme cases, and I feel blessed that these people invited me into their lives and that they were such amazing teachers. So reason why I'm sharing this is because I was able to gain very deep understanding of health, and this allowed me to also go down that rabbit hole and understand the entire sequence of spells that have also been casted around the health industry. But that's a different topic. We're focusing right now on the beauty spells. All right, so while I was working in entertainment, a lot of interesting things happened to me that really woke me up, and one of them was just the pressure that people have on camera to look a certain way. And of course, it comes with the territory. I get that. But I don't believe that people should be pushed towards engaging in practices that work against their bodies so that they can keep a job. And so, for example, I remember that one day I was with a makeup artist, and he's putting on my makeup. We're having a casual conversation, and he says, "Oh my God, your cheeks are too round. You should get liposuction." And I'm like, can you even do that? So that was one of the things I was told. Then some of the producers insisted that I get breast implants. And what I said to them is, listen, I am here. I'm not just a TV anchor just giving a message. My message is a message of health, and I need to embody the message that I'm sharing, which is inviting women to accept themselves naturally as they are and to just bring out the best in them, in their unique body, in their unique frame. So I would be a complete contradiction if I was to do that. And by the way, I'm not critiquing the women who do. What I'm saying is that that was not part of my values or what I wanted to share. And so, the pressure continued, but I never went down that path. And I'm actually very happy I didn't, because as of recent, the FDA has acknowledged that breast implants could cause cancer and another host of health-related challenges. And this is also part of the beauty spell. And while women were being told by the spellcasters that these devices were completely safe, that they were the most studied devices on the market, as of maybe a month, 2 months ago, a report came out that the FDA had suppressed about or hidden from the public about 6 million complaints or reports about defective medical devices. 300,000 were about breast implants. So, that's just a whole story in itself, and there's a lot of controversy there. But this is what I am referring to, is we have been told that we need to do these things to us so that we can fit in, so that we can be happier. Yet the experience that a lot of these women that have gone down that path have had is that in an attempt to seek that validation or feeling enough or feeling better or stronger, or whatever the reason was for them to pursue that, it literally destroyed their life and their health. So this is why this is such an important conversation that we're having right now, because most women are not aware that a lot of the practices that they are being told are safe are actually very destructive. All right, so another thing was, if you're on TV, of course, you get a lot of pressure to look a certain way. And if you're a fitness personality on TV, the pressure increases like a millionfold. So I was always being told that I was not lean enough, that I was overweight, that I was this, that I was that. Some of my co-workers would even make fun of me on the air. And this is just the dynamic that brews sometimes in this environment. Am I saying everybody in this world is like that? Absolutely not. But what I am saying is that it does create this environment. And, you know, and I remember when we were going to go, for example, there was like red carpet season, and we were getting ready to get on the red carpet, and the crazy things that a lot of these women did in order to look a certain way so that they could fit into a dress. So that other people would approve of them or wouldn't criticize them or whatever it was. You know, that's just such an eye-opener. And like I said, I've worked with a lot of celebrities, and I remember one of them once came to me. And so this is a very common pattern, is one of their celebrity friends does something, it gives them results, and then all the friends want to follow. And they all want to do the same thing. So this was the case for this lady. So she was telling me that a friend of hers, who was an actor, had taken these fat burners, and that he had lost a lot of weight. So she said to him, oh my God, you gotta tell me the name, I'm gonna buy them. So sure enough, he gives her the name, she buys them, she takes them, and she went blind for 24 hours, okay? This is the kind of stuff that I am talking about, and these are things that are oftentimes are hidden from people. And you know, we get so seduced by the outcome that we oftentimes forget that these practices can work against our bodies, and that eventually we will get an invoice from our bodies in the form of an untold amount of symptoms that may seem unrelated, but that have one origin, and that is malnourishment through going on diets for years, over-exercising, taking weight loss and diet pills. Oftentimes they're amphetamine-based, going through cosmetic procedures, also more extreme things like ingesting tapeworms so that you don't gain weight, and this actually is a thing. Tongue stitching, and that is when you put a little cloth on the tongue to make eating uncomfortable, so that you have to, you're forced to be on a liquid diet. And by the way, going back to the family and the spell casting within the family, I was referred a client by a psychologist actually. She was 16, and the mother had like this very painful relationship with food and body image, totally spell casted by the beauty spell. And so the daughter had a few pounds on her, like she, you know, like it's not like she was morbidly obese and she had to lose weight for health reasons or anything like that. She just had a few pounds on her, and she was 16 years old, and her mother had already put her through every single supplement, diet. The last thing that she had done before they came to me was she had stitched that. She took her to a doctor who stitched this thing on her tongue. And this brings me to spellcasters. Engaging in this procedure, to me, is a form of spellcasting a child or any adult, because it's not about, oh, okay, well, let's see what habits you're engaging in that are leading to the weight gain, and let's work on healing your relationship with food and with body image. It's no, let me create pain around the act of eating. But because this is done through an authority figure, we get seduced by it, and then we think that it's okay. And so oftentimes, a lot of these professionals in the fitness, health, medical communities, they are also under the spell. Am I saying they're bad? No, I'm not saying they're bad. What I'm saying is that just like you and I, they've been spell casted as well. And oftentimes they promote these procedures that work against the body. But remember, you can't just work against the body when you're engaging in this. You're working against your mind, you're working against your emotions, you're working against your spirit, against your intuition, against your instinct. Like, you're going against yourself just to validate a method, a system, or an idea outside of you. And this is what the spell is. And again, I'm not pointing fingers or saying that people are bad, ill-intended, whatever. I'm just saying that everybody is under this spell. I mean, we all grew up in water, meaning in that environment, and we didn't know we were in water. All right, so this is not a critique to the intentions, but what I will say is this. There are some professionals that know exactly what they're doing. And I've had clients say to me that they walked into a plastic surgeon's office because a friend needed to have like a little growth removed. And while they're there waiting for their friend, the doctor says, "Ooh, are those wrinkles? Look, let me show you a before and after of this woman who I gave Botox to, and look at the difference." And my friend or my client said to me, "You know what? I had never even bothered about the fact that I had lines of expression. Like, it never even bothered me. But after he said that, like, it really hit me." And so what I want you to think of is, so now you're in a room where you're vulnerable with an authority figure. And this authority figure basically chips away at your self-esteem so that you engage in a procedure that involves injecting botulism, which is the Botox, okay, that's the botulism toxin, which is one of the most poisonous substances known to man, into your face, so that you fight against the most natural process of existence, which is aging, because they've also turned us against aging. And so now we have this whole industry that revolves around anti-aging. Please listen to the words and the spell. How can you anti-age? You cannot anti-age. Why don't we talk about aging gracefully? Because you're taking good care of your health, not because you're trying to stop the inevitable by engaging in procedures that may work against your body and that may have potential side effects that you are not being warned against. All right. So as I started to see this, not only in the field, and see how psychology is used to influence behavior, and how the people inside these fields are also spellcasted. And by the way, I'm not just talking about entertainment. I'm talking about the fitness industry, which, you know, is the industry I've been in, you know, for about 20 years, and I love the field. However, this is an industry of eating and image disorders that are just being propagated as social norms. And so this is a concern. So, you know, as you're hearing me speak, you may think, "Oh my God, I'm in this industry, and yes, we do this. Oh my God, I'm in that." The idea is not that you own shame. The idea is that you look at things for what they are and that you become the solution. Because what needs to happen here is we need to transition from that childlike state where we're naive and where we trust everything and everyone. And we need to start trusting ourselves, our inner guidance, repair that instinct injury, so that we can start making choices that work with our body, not against it. And if we are in an industry that is advancing these agendas, then I would invite you to be the difference and be the change. And so here I am presenting a different idea and a different understanding. I am not somebody who's ever going to give you a fitness beauty standard. My invitation to you is work with your body, nurture it. And as you go through that process and you give your body the resources and the raw material that it needs, and you create the environment, the body will express its full potential. And that is, what is your full potential when you are nurtured, not what is a fabricated potential. You see, one has a side effect, which is health and radiating from the inside out. The other one has several side effects, and that is a disconnect from self, and a disconnect from health, a disconnect from nature, and a disconnect from self. And this is what I refer to as part of the aftermath, because engaging in these procedures tends to create like a whole snowball or a whole cascade of events that tend to affect us quite negatively. So this is how I learned about the spell, and this is how I learned how to break the spells. And one of the spells that I had was that when I was 18 years old, I decided to become a vegan because I had a lot of health issues. And although it helped me overcome the asthma that I was experiencing at that time, it destroyed my health 8 years after following this lifestyle. And so this was when I was going through my program where I was being educated on how to reverse the damage and the aftermath of having followed a diet that was completely wrong for me. And the reason why I did it was because instead of being invited inside myself to become an expert in myself and explore what works for me, I just totally gave my power away to some gurus and some ideas that eventually destroyed my body. And so the thing is, we're all completely different, and we respond very differently to food. This is why we have such contradictory information circulating out there about what we should eat. And so we have some researchers telling us that, oh my God, we totally need to follow this diet because research shows. And then you have professionals with equal credentials and who've conducted equally valid research telling us the complete opposite. And so why are we having the experts contradict information, which is creating a lot of confusion for the general population? It's because we have been taught to externalize the world and give our power away to these authority figures to tell us what to do, instead of having people inviting us inside ourselves so that we figure out what we need to do in order to feel nurtured and nourished and become experts in ourselves, so that we can navigate our bodies, our lives from that place of knowing self, inner authority. And this is what the bombshell formula actually is knowledge. We ask nature, we understand nature, our body's in relationship to nature. Then we take that knowledge and we put it to the test. We don't just own and believe things that we're told. We put it to the test and we actually see if it works for if it works for us or if it doesn't. And then, having gone through that process of knowledge, ask nature plus experience, ask your body, put it to the test, we can elevate ourselves to that level of wisdom where we know self. And that is when we can navigate our bodies like an empowered bombshell that trusts self because it knows self. Okay, and this brings me to a very important point, and that is that part of the way that we break spells is by, instead of externalizing authority and believing everything we're told outside, we want to internalize authority. We want to take our bodies through that process of self-exploration and become experts in ourselves. That is part of the key. But before we're able to even do that, we need to learn how to question and be okay with questioning. And this is part of the spell. And is that when you're under a spell, it feels like a threat to even question the spell. Why? Because our entire sense of self and who we are is built around the spell. So if the spell gets dismantled, oh my God, who am I? And so this is what happened to me when I was able to break my spell about following this vegan diet. I realized I wasn't following a vegan diet. I was vegan. My entire sense of self was built around this idea. So now, oh my God, I'm realizing that this is destroying my body. And I was so loyal to the spell that I even considered compromising my health just to keep the ideology alive, until I came into reason and I was able to break the spell. But I understood that by breaking the spell, I was having to completely reframe my sense of self. And this time, it wasn't about finding somebody else outside of me that I would attach to and own their ideas, but it was about coming inside myself, self-exploring and connecting with what nurtured me. And so through this process, I was able to not only break the spell, but also to start healing the aftermath of that spell. And that was the physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and intuitive damage that had been done. All right, so now the time has come to ask yourself and self-assess, are you under the spell? All right, so the first thing is, do you feel threatened when somebody challenges the spell? Meaning any one of your, the procedures that you have pursued? Do you feel threatened if somebody comments something about your body? Do you feel threatened if somebody challenges your belief in general? So that's the first thing, okay? And that is one of the biggest indicators that you are indeed under a spell. Second is, are you willing to compromise your health so that you can fit into the fairy tale fabricated beauty standards that we have been sold on, okay? Because one thing is not knowing that you're harming your body and engaging in these behaviors, but another thing is actually knowing that these things are harmful and choosing to engage in them even though you know that they are harming you. Am I saying right or wrong? I'm not here to judge you. What I'm saying is that there's consequences to that. And, you know, I believe that as adults, we all have different values. So maybe for me, my value is that I don't want to compromise my health to look a certain way. Maybe for you it is. But in going through that process of assessing whether this is something I want to do or not, we need to understand the consequences. And part of being an adult is, okay, so let me assess the consequences of this choice and ask myself, what consequences am I willing to live with and which ones am I not? So if you're willing to live with the consequences of harming yourself in exchange for a fairy tale beauty ideal, that's your choice. But what I'm saying is, you know, if this is the choice, you may want to at least consider that you may be under a spell. So that would be our second point. Our third point is if you have a history of dieting, taking weight loss pills, engaging in extreme exercise regimes, if you also have a history of going for cosmetic procedures, like this is also an indicator that you may be under the spell. The next one is, do you rely on other people outside of you to tell you that things should be done a certain way, even though your inner guidance, your instinct is telling you otherwise? And do you choose to give these people outside of you more weight than you give your own inner guidance, validity, and weight? That's another potential indicator that you are under the spell. The other one is, are you experiencing a whole host of unwanted side effects like hormonal imbalance, digestive issues, inability to concentrate, sugar cravings, you're not feeling like you have energy and so you're tired all the time? Have you been diagnosed with some autoimmune condition? Do you have digestive issues? Do you have constipation, diarrhea, inability to sleep? Are you anxious all the time? Do you feel depressed and helpless? Like, the thing is that unfortunately we have created this compartmentalized idea of health. So when you have this issue, you come here. When you see this specialist. When you have this other issue, you see this other specialist. And oftentimes, what I find in a conventional healthcare system is that people are just seeing isolated expressions of poor health without ever getting out of that zoom in and doing a zoom out and seeing how all of these symptoms are telling a story and what is the root of the issue. Because if not, you're just gonna get lost in trying to put out all these little fires instead of going out and putting the big fire out, okay? Which in my experience is typically just the big picture of the fitness beauty spell, not just how it affects us emotionally and mentally, but also how it affects our health. Because remember, once we have engaged in the practices that work against our bodies, our bodies are going to give us that invoice. And so all of these symptoms are basically the invoice. All right. All right. And so the next question is, if when you see that you have all these problems, you go out and you seek for help, and you find that the people that try to offer help try to give you the same types of solutions that got you in trouble in the first place. And you continue to believe that, and that just locks you into that process. Another thing is, do you stand in front of the mirror and do you have a painful conversation with the mirror as you break down your body and everything that is wrong with it according to the spell? Another thing is, do you sit in front of your plate of food and basically feel guilty for everything that you eat? Do you have a fight with food? Because remember, one of the side effects of the fitness beauty spell is that it creates a painful relationship not only with body image, but also with food. And do you find yourself, because it also does it with exercise, do you find yourself maybe eating something and then feeling guilty and then feeling like you have to go and burn it off with exercise? Do you have cheat days? Meaning, do you feel miserable and restricted your entire week and you're compliant to that, and that is your punishment? And do you feel that then you have to overcompensate by giving yourself a reward and just binging? Or do you have that pattern during the day? Do you skip meals during the day, and then at the end of the day, Mother Nature kicks in and it just gives you like this ravenous appetite? And so you go from a process of starving yourself, the punishment, with the reward, the binging, in one day. Okay, so it could be like in cycles of a week, it could be in cycles of a day. Okay, and I've had clients who had that particular cycle. And this is a very big one. Are you following a diet that is not working for you, and you don't even know that it's not working for you, but you've totally idolized that diet? So let me give you an indicator to identify if what you're eating is working for you or not. Okay, when we eat, from the moment we eat until the next 4 to 6 hours, we should feel energy, clarity of thought, no sugar cravings. We should feel emotionally stable, satisfied, and we should feel like we are, like our belly is flat, but we're satisfied. We are good to go, okay? And we don't think of food for the next, as I said, 4 to 6 hours, because our blood sugar is stable, we're good, we've been nurtured, okay? And on top of that, if you do this on a consistent basis and get these feelings on a consistent basis, you're able to maintain your weight, okay? However, if after eating, you're feeling tired, like your energy was drained, you can't concentrate and your mind is foggy and spacey, and if you're reading a paragraph, you have to read it over and over again because the information just doesn't sink in. If you feel cravings for sugar, coffee, sweets, starches, fruits, shortly after eating, then this is also a sign that that wasn't a good meal for you. If you feel anxious and you start seeing things like the glass is half empty because your mood is unstable and you're all over the place after eating, then this is another sign that that could have not been a good meal for you. And if you're hungry quickly after eating, or you feel like something was missing, so you raid the pantry, you raid the fridge, and you just don't even know what it was. Is it sweet? Is it salty? What's missing? This is another sign that you're not eating well for you. So you know, here we come to the choices. Okay, am I willing to break the spell that is keeping me or interfering with my ability to explore other eating options because I'm completely loyal to this philosophy and I'm just stuck here even though it's harming my health. So these are some of the most relevant indicators that we may be under the fitness beauty spell. Oops, and I forgot one, a big one. And this is when you go through social media, do you feel inadequate about your body when you see other women? And do you feel anger or fear or shame and then project this as anger and resentment towards the women in those pictures? You see, and this is the catch with social media. Okay, so I understand if we see that, you know, like unrealistic body standards are being promoted, and we can see it for what it is. You know, we can recognize the spell and we can see it for what it is. We can just unattach from it, not from a place, not detach from a place of apathy, but unattach from a place of I am not going to give my power away and invest my energy into that spell or into that meme. Versus, oh my God, this spell, this meme totally has me captured and I totally want to look like that, but I can't, or I'm going to do whatever it takes in order to look like that. Okay, so if you answered to 3 or more of those, then you may want to start considering going through a process of breaking those spells, because like I said, you know, if you don't go through that process, it just deepens, and believe me, everything in your environment is built around supporting the spell. That I can tell you for a fact. Television, media, even government, educational institutions, your friends, your family, your co-workers, everybody. All right, so this brings us to almost the end of our conversation, and that is, how do we break a spell? And so what I said to you at the beginning or earlier is really the key, and that is, first, question your reality, even if you're completely attached to it. Second, instead of externalizing authority, consider becoming an expert in you repairing your instinct injury and starting to trust your body and your inner guidance. Another one that is huge is reconnect with nature. Why reconnect with nature? Because nature offers us absolutely everything that we need to be healthy and shine on the outside, look amazing based on our unique frame. Everything is out in nature, but unfortunately, our modern world has totally disconnected us from nature and plugged us into technology. So what we've done is we've dismissed the medicinal power of nature and the truth that lives within nature. That is our umbilical cord. That's our uterus. That's our womb. You know, like nature gives us everything that we need to nurture ourselves. It gives us what we need to drink, what we need to eat, what we need to breathe, our home, everything. So to the degree that we're disconnected from nature and its life-giving factors and elements, then our health is going to suffer. And to the degree that we plug into the industrialized reality and the industrialized procedures that dismiss nature and invite us into a synthetic lifestyle, then that will keep us attached to the spell. That is not fundamentally true. It is not what we evolved with, the reality, the truth that we evolved with, that gave us life and health. Technology wasn't. Yes, it has its benefits, but unfortunately, we have run with the benefits of technology, and it's just now that we're starting to understand how it's impacting our health negatively. Okay, so reconnecting with nature. Also, a really big one is connecting with ancestral wisdom. Our ancestors had it right. They were contrary to popular belief. When you really look at anthropological research, these people were sturdy, they were healthy, and they needed to be. Why? Because they were in a primal environment exposed to all the elements of nature. You know, if I look at the people today, I'd suspect that most people would not even make it 1 or 2 days out there in the wilderness, yet these people managed to survive for many years. And if they weren't killed by a predator or some infection because they had a cut or something like that and didn't have an ER, these people made it late into their late years. So, you know, I've grown up in Colombia and South America. I've seen country people, I've seen indigenous people, I've seen fishermen, I've been around people who maintained ancestral practices, and I have seen their health firsthand. I have also lived around the world and traveled around the world, and I have also seen the difference in people who have replaced ancestral wisdom in nature and just the truth that lives there with a synthetic industrialized life, and what that does to us physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, intuitively. And so what I want to do is, before I go, because these are the main steps to really breaking the spell, is I want to leave you with my 7 hacks. And these are 7 things that you can start doing for your body that can start helping you address the aftermath of the fitness and beauty spell. And so the first one is take your power back. Understand that you are in charge. You are not at the mercy of your genes. The way you look and the way you feel is not the side effect of poor genes or bad luck. That is a very old and a very disempowering model of thinking. I want to invite you to connect with a more empowering field of study, which is epigenetics. And it suggests that everything you do every second of the day is what dictates whether you express your potential as a healthy and beautiful human being that you are, or if you push your body into degeneration and move away from that and invite disease and all the other expressions of inflammation and degeneration that come with that. So take your power back. Understand that you are in charge. You have the power. If you don't like the way you look and the way you feel, guess what? All you need to do is change the habits that got you there and replace it with habits that are going to nurture you. But what are those habits? All right, well, eat. And the first thing with food that I want to share is eat real food. So I'm just going to give you one tip to make this very basic and very simple. Stick to the border of the supermarket where you will find the foods that are found in nature. That is what you can hunt, fish, and gather. Okay? These are the real foods. Avoid everything that's in the center of the supermarket because it has been denatured. It is swimming in cocktails of synthetic industrial chemicals that work against your body. And by all means, stay away from low-fat, fat-free diet foods and all of these modern inventions. Go for real food and make sure that you get the best quality food available. So if it's animal foods, make sure that these animals are grass-fed, pasture-raised. If you're getting your produce, make sure it's organic, free of industrial agrochemicals. All right, very simple. If you think about it that way, the center of the supermarket is going to have all the pesticides, herbicides, all of these industrial agrochemicals, plus the cocktail of chemicals that they've added, plus these foods are denatured. I mean, you don't want to eat foods from that area. All right, and as I said, avoid the diet foods and all these diet supplements and these things. Nothing can replace the power, the nurturing power of food. All right, next thing is detox. And so I'm not talking about detox in the perspective of take this magic potion or anything like that. at this very fundamental level is monitor what you're putting on your skin, because through your skin and through your cleaning products, you are bringing in a whole host of very questionable synthetic chemicals that could be endocrine disruptors. They could damage your hormonal system. They could be carcinogens. They could be neurotoxins, meaning they could damage your nervous system. Obesogens. They can make you gain weight, etc., etc. So make sure that you go for very, very clean products that are free of these synthetic industrial chemicals. This will start making a huge difference. And by all means, ladies, part of the beauty spell is poison yourself so that you can look beautiful. That's the behind the scenes. But when you read the ingredients of a lot of these products and you research what these ingredients do, you will see that they are not, this is the predator. They are not going to walk you towards health, but they are going to slowly compromise it. And the thing is that very few people will be able to connect the dots and realize that maybe your hormonal imbalance is coming from endocrine disruptors in the beauty care products that you've been using. It could be in the cosmetics, it could be in the skincare, it could be at hair dyes. And by the way, these are actually my gray hairs that I've used a completely natural spray. You could pretty much eat everything on that spray, and that is how I color my beautiful grays. Why? Not because I'm ashamed of grays, but because for my skin tone, I rather have a more of a yellowish color in my grays. All right, so the point is that there are natural alternatives that do the job and that help you look amazing without you compromising your health. All right, sleep. Huge. Huge, huge, huge. And I know that a lot of you women, because you're high-powered and you're go-getters, oftentimes you will compromise sleep to accomplish the things that you want. But I will tell you something. If you lack sleep, then this is going to compromise not just the way you look, but your health is really going to go down the drain along with your energy. So sleep, sleep, sleep. Be in bed before 10:30, be up at 6 a.m. and wake up with the sun. All right, drink. So, and by the way, these are generalized recommendations. Through the 7 Body Basics, I teach you how to become an expert in you and really personalize this so that you can become an expert in yourself. But these are things that you can do right now that can really change your life and help you start reversing the aftermath of all these years of engaging in the fitness beauty spell. Drink, and this is one of the most obvious ones. Everybody knows we need to drink water, but you need to really be very aware of what's in your water. My suggestion is avoid tap water and get a glass bottle, get a good quality filter, figure out what contaminants are in your area, and get a filter that can get those out. And by the way, that will help the environment because you're not consuming these plastic bottles. All right, hydration is critical and it needs to be balanced with natural wholesome salts such as like Himalayan salt or something of that nature. As far as the sun, we were told part of the big thing here with the fitness beauty spell was, before I get into the sun, was avoid salt and drink a whole bunch of water, but that can create electrolyte imbalances and it can actually be counterproductive and really stress and damage your system. All right, so now let's go into tan. So tan, again, the fitness beauty spell convinced us that the sun was bad, and that it was going to give us cancer, and it was going to wrinkle us, and it was going to do this, and it was going to do that. Well, turns out that a deficiency of vitamin D, and by the way, it is not the same when you go around supplementing. We're talking about the relationship that our bodies have with the sun, which not only balances our sleep-wake cycles, it also helps our cells produce energy, it helps us produce vitamin D, nitric oxide. I mean, like, there's so many benefits, and we need to understand our skin and what the needs, what our skin's need for sun is, and how to manage that so that we have a healthy balance and don't get sunburned. All right, that's super, super important. And also move. And again, the fitness beauty spell is eat less, move more. And although that may sound like a logical recommendation, actually what that does is you're basically telling somebody who's in famine to run faster, faster away from a lion that is chasing them. Believe me, this is the recipe for hormonal mess. So if you're one of those people that is over exercising and not eating enough, the recommendation there is flip it. Start eating more, exercising less, so that you can allow your body to recover and also build your life around the previous basics that I shared, so that your body can recover well from exercise and you can actually gain the benefits of exercise instead of turning exercise into a stressor that damages your body. And then finally, if you are sedentary, start by committing to 5 minutes a day. And let me just share this with you. When you commit to those 5 minutes and you actually keep your word to yourself, this is going to be an amazing step into helping you build self-respect. Why? Because you keep your word to yourself. And one of the things that destroys our self-esteem the most is when we break our word to ourselves and we say, oh, tomorrow I'm going to start exercising. And you wake up and you give yourself all the million excuses to not do it. That harms our self-esteem because we start losing respect for our words. So 5 minutes, start there. And the exercise of keeping your word to yourself will start increasing your self-confidence, your self-respect, and it will do wonders for you. And by the way, I'm closing on move because on that note and what I just said, the idea here is that we nurture ourselves, that we keep our word to ourselves, and that we commit to breaking the spell and learning how to establish a healthy relationship with food and with body image, because this is the foundation to connecting with the power that comes within and helping us break the spell and also address the painful aftermath of that spell. So to finalize, I know that some of you may be very deep into the spell, and some of you may have enough to start working with this information, but some of you may feel like you need support to start making these changes. I understand that your environment is completely built around the beauty spell and maintaining the spell. So once you're making the changes, you may need somebody to hold you by the hand as you're going through the process and troubleshoot and, and just bring in the level of expertise to help you break free from the beauty spell. And not only that, but also address that physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, intuitive aftermath that comes with that. So if this is you and you feel like you need that additional support, book in a call. Let's get on the phone. Let me see how I can help you help yourself. Let me see how I can support you on this journey to freedom and to reclaiming your birthright to being the best version of you and living up to your natural full potential. All right, a big kiss. Thank you for your time. We'll see each other again.